Bone-sung Rella rocked back and forth in front of the sounding box. His two colleagues pulled their bows back and forth across the strings to fill the room with an urgent droning sound. Not loud but insistent, the tone was intrusive and demanding. The demagogue could see the tension rising among the orcs watching them. Their discordant tones were doing their work. The inharmonious instruments expressly designed to cause the heart to pump and the blood to run. The musician's song leading the listeners inexorably close to the edge of the abyss. There were furtive glances from one turtle to another. Hurried whispers slipped beneath the harsh music like grains of sand falling into water. They were watching the group intently, engrossed by the Illawim rite. The mystagogue had warned them that he was going to try and call their ancestors to attend them. From the way they were staring at him, it was like they thought he was going to make them physically appear. The harsh sound of the zithers continued to build in tempo and volume. When Rella judged it had reached the crescendo, he slammed his hands down on the sounding box. The cymbals inside crashed together, the noise amplified to an ear-splitting din by the clever construction of the box. The audience jumped in surprise as the sound struck them like a thunderbolt. The eyes of the crowd darted left and right, desperately hunting for the danger the shocking sound the box had conjured. The mystagogue slowly rose to his feet, studying his audience carefully. There were a dozen turtles in the crowd, a motley mix of fisherfolk and shopkeepers mostly. For the most part, they were wide-eyed and alert, looking around in alarm and wondering what might come next. All but one. A middle-aged female orc dressed in work clothes, her shoulders covered by a fine red wool shawl. She wasn't looking at Rella or the other Illawim. Currently, she wasn't looking at anything at all, just staring off into the distance. The mystagogue knew that look well. Another piece of the bridge he just slid into place. Overview. Mayrive, second territory of the Imperial Orcs Nation, is the arid and southerly territory in the Empire and potentially the most exposed. Thus far it has not been attacked, but the Grendel launched an unsuccessful invasion of the Reddit to the west, and the armies of the Salt Lords could cross the border from Aerid at any moment. As autumn turns to winter, its inhabitants bear the surprisingly cold nights and spend their time planning for the coming year. What endeavours might work, who might be convinced to support whom in an undertaking, and what to do or when the Grendel return. The Golden Pyramid remains in the territory, on the search for opportunities to establish new ventures and to enhance the prosperity of its citizens. They have identified a golden opportunity to both support the territory and dramatically improve the prestige and influence of their own conclave order. To the east, the Scourans, who have offered their aid in rebuilding the aqueduct of Eredal, but also expose other avenues for cautious cooperation. To the west, Beodara and Beodarith, the independent nation ruled by Lord Esan, continues to explore the possibility of closer trading ties with their imperial neighbours, and who could be approached to negotiate information on the Salt Lords. And to the south of the territory are the Brine Turtles, the sept of orcs whose warriors still fight on behalf of the Grendel. It is the Brine Turtles that the Illawim have approached, hoping to find ways to build new bridges. There is a companion wind of fortune, million miles of water, that deals with opportunities to address the challenges related to developing Mayrive. Golden Opportunity. The Golden Pyramid remains in Mayrive, seeking out opportunities. The Grand Master will continue receiving 10 random ingots, 7 crystal mana, and 7 doses of Cerulean Mazarine as a bequest as long as the order remains in the territory. there is a new opportunity to construct a Grand Lodge that replaces the previous proposal. The Golden Pyramid have remained in Mariv, guided by the Grand Master to continue looking for the untapped wealth and chances to capitalize on good fortune. Each season they are here, they intend to work on the most promising economic opportunity to see if the proposal interests their members. All these opportunities will remain for as long as the Order persists in their work here in the Mariv, unless explicitly stated otherwise. Any opportunities that have not been commissioned when the Golden Pyramid quits the territory will be lost. Some members of the Order are enjoying working in Mariv so much that they are considering putting down roots here. There is a shortage of skilled magicians with an interest in prosperity and economic magic in Mariv, but it is more than that. The locals respect magicians, and crucially, they respect the ethos of the Golden Pyramid. They expect to pay for spellcasting and other services. They look surprised at any suggestion that such precious skills might be provided for free. The people here are not wealthy, but they are hard-working, and the mines that riddle the mountains contain rich seams of artisan materials. There is money to be made here for those willing to work it. Last season, the Order proposed to create a modest Grand Lodge in their territory, but the plan has gone nowhere. Disappointed, but not disheartened, the Order has binned the plans and opted to pursue a vastly more ambitious proposal in its place. It all started when one of their members went rooting through the Green Keep, a fortified compound whose walls are wreathed in thick green vines in Cliserne. This decaying building was once home to a garrison of Stoneborn, who guarded both the mine and the villas of Asan and his supporters. Instead of building a small lodge for the Order, why not build something really impressive, the thinking goes. If the Golden Pyramid were to be given control of the old garrison compound, they could rebuild it into something big enough to house almost any number of the Order's wizards. It would be expensive to build and maintain, of course, but it would allow the Order to extend economic cooperation right across that territory, providing magicians to support mines, mana sites, and businesses throughout the Mariv. Crucially, the Order would be on hand to provide vital support for the workers in the Fundendelve, boosting production in the mines and providing the Order with a small income of incredibly valuable mithril each season. All this trade would be good for individual magicians as well. Magicians of the Order would enjoy a small personal boost in income for a year after the Grand Lodge was complete, and the gain in skills and services would provide a permanent benefit to the resources that the Order supported. A Grand Lodge is not cheap to operate. It would cost the Imperial Senate 5 thrones a season in upkeep. But the Golden Pyramid are the most mercantile order in the Conclave. Having such a massive presence in the territory, working to boosting the local economy would increase taxation, so it would be a net gain for the Imperial Senate. Part of the plan involves relocating all the Order's mana brokers to the new Grand Lodge. Currently, most Orders have their mana purchasing arrangements spread across the Empire, but they are primarily located in the big League cities. That's fine, but prices can get expensive there quickly. By moving all their operations to a new Grand Lodge, the Order could cut the costs and benefit from cheap prices for mana in the territory. No more having to compete with wealthy League troops and savvy merchant princes when buying mana. It's not all positive. Operations here would be vulnerable if the Grand Lodge was overrun, and it wouldn't be possible to buy as many mana crystals as it is when buying across the Empire, but it would definitely save money on every crystal bought. This idea would incorporate the ideas for the Cliserne Grand Market, so it would not be possible to build this and the Grand Market, but it would provide the same intangible benefit that the market offered. It would demonstrate the strength of Imperial commitment to the region, but also help the Cliserne families see the benefit of working with the Empire rather than opposing them. They would not automatically become friends to the Empire, but their own self-interest would see them cease their open opposition. It cannot be denied that having a powerful conclave order establish their base of power in Clisern appeals to the families here. It would certainly boost their own prestige. Of course, such a massive operation would be expensive, but there is one way the Order might be able to reduce the costs. By working closely with the Imperial Orcs and tailoring the proposals to ensure that they were also of benefit to their hosts, the Golden Pyramid could take advantage of the inspiration of Thrace, reducing basic labor costs to 0 and requiring only 36 crowns to pay for the additional costs for work in Mariv caused by its poor connections to the rest of the Empire. Perhaps the Order and the nation might even be able to fund the commission together, sharing the financial and political costs to get it arranged. Working with the Imperial Orcs would benefit them as well. The boost in production of local mines, businesses and mana sites would cause Delving Market, the local site for exchanging metals and orders, to rapidly grow to accommodate all the new trade. The commission would include instructions to the civil service to arrange to appoint an Imperial Orc position to oversee the market. The bone setter of the Delving Market would be responsible for the market, as well as supporting the miners throughout Mariv. In return, they would receive a small income in fees and dues of 10 crowns each season, which they choose to spend purchasing ingots if they wished. Building a Grand Lodge for the Order here would anchor the Golden Pyramid to Mariv. It wouldn't be possible for the Order to build a Grand Lodge elsewhere in the Empire while this one is still under Imperial control. However, it would be easy to incorporate Asan's villa into the new lodge, providing a set of resplendent living quarters for the Grand Master of one of the most important Order in the Conclave. Grand Lodges. In light of the extraordinary plans put forward by the Golden Pyramid, other orders are keen to consider their own positions if this goes ahead. The Order of the Silver Chalice has temporarily withdrawn their own plans for a Grand Lodge while they consider if something more ambitious might be possible. It is not currently possible for any Order to build any Grand Lodge other than this one. The Civil Service believe the benefits of this Grand Lodge are a unique combination of the qualities of Mariv and the goals of the Golden Pyramid, but other orders could achieve results that were similarly impressive. Golden Pyramid are not the first Conclave Order to put forward plans for Grand Lodge, but this new plan is far and away the most ambitious proposal. By building something much bigger than originally envisaged, something that can house many more members of the Order, the Golden Pyramid have imagined something vastly more significant than originally conceived. Members of other orders are discussing the proposal and watching with interest. Skeptics believe that the Imperial Orcs and the Golden Pyramid will never manage to scrape the wains together for it, but if this great work is commissioned and built, it will certainly provide a great deal of interest and jealousy from other orders. The Silver Chalice were the first order to imagine creating a great lodge, but they have temporarily withdrawn their own plans while they contemplate the implications of this proposal. Out of character note, it is not currently possible for any order other than the Golden Pyramid to build a Grand Lodge. If it looks like this may go ahead in some form, if this Grand Lodge is commissioned, then the Silver Chalice will produce updated plans for something on a similar scale. The Civil Service confirm that there is no reason that a Grand Lodge built on this scale to serve another Conclave Order wouldn't have a similar level of impact, but they are quick to stress that the effects would be very different. Mariv is a very underdeveloped territory, where the financial skills of the Golden Pyramid are in great demand. Nobody imagines this Grand Lodge would have anything like if it was built in one of the League cities, which are already rich and prosperous. So the location of the Grand Lodge is crucial, as is the order it is built to support. If this were a proposal for a Grand Lodge for the Rod and Shield or the Sevenfold Path, then the impact would reflect that order's focus. It wouldn't provide economic benefits for the area. The Senate could use an appraisal to try and find the best location for a specific order to build a Grand Lodge if they wish to assess what benefits might be available. The Illyriwim and the Turtles. Members of the Illyriwim Sept have spent the last 3 months as guests in the Fjoralt. Last season, Eileen Sweetwater presented an appraisal on how the uncooperative inhabitants of the southern regions might be convinced to work alongside the Empire, or at least not actively work with the Grendel. The work of Bone Sungrella and Illyriwim visiting Irondale pointed out the elders of the Brine Turtles were frightened and angry, frightened of the fact that, without their army, the Empire could crush them without missing a step, and angry that the Salt Lords had effectively abandoned the territory to seek reaches across the Bay of Katazar. Aelian mentioned that the Imperial Senate could make it illegal to hunt or harm turtles in the Bay of Katazar. At the same time, the Imperial Orc Assembly requested that the Illyriwim visit Fioralt in Flazard to begin to pave the way for negotiations with the Sept to Brine Turtles to begin. Their efforts have borne fruit, and this summit possibly presents the best chance for discussion to begin with the Orcs of the Broken Shore. The Senate motion passed, providing an effective measure of protection for the turtles, at least from Imperial hands. With some trepidation, Bone Sungrella returns to Brine Turtle lands, this time with a small delegation of Illyriwim, including mystics, demagogues, a historian, a trader, and rather unusually, an Illyriwim thief-taker called Hask, who tags along in the hope that he might be able to build bridges with a group of Brine Turtles called the Alley Walkers. Visiting the Brine Turtles. The Brine Turtle Sept is waiting for the Grendel and their army to return and liberate Mariv. There is an opportunity to enter negotiations with the leader of the Sept. It is unclear what the Sept might ask for. The Imperial Consul has the authority to negotiate a treaty with the Sept. The Senator of Mariv could also negotiate with the Sept, but would not be able to present a treaty to Senate. The group are able to use the excuse of spreading news of the new Imperial law as justification to visit the Brine Turtles' land, which helps to improve their welcome. It works to soothe tensions, but only a little. The Brine Turtles appear hostile and wary of the Imperial visitors. The blunt truth is that the Empire has declared the Turtles to be foreigners, but they don't consider themselves that way. They see themselves as enemies of the Empire, as barbarians, whose loyalty is to the Grendel. There is no intention on their part to fight the Empire, but only because they lack the means, not the desire. If their army were present, and the Brine Turtles are confident that their warriors will return soon, then the whole Sept would unite behind them in an effort to retake their lands from their enemies. Perversely, this fixation may be helping the Empire at present. It is precisely the fact that the Brine Turtles are so confident that help is coming that ensures they won't do anything rash in the meantime. It's self-evident to them that the best thing to do is just sit tight, keep their heads down, and wait. It's difficult to be sure whether they simply believe help is coming, or whether they know help is coming. They have definitely had assurances from representatives of the Salt Lords that they will send their armies to liberate the Brine Turtles, and soon, but with no definition of what soon means. Obviously, the Turtles wouldn't tell the Empire of the Grendel plans if they knew them, but Rella is a skilled mystagogue with an almost magical capacity for empathy and personal understanding, and believes they do not know what the Salt Lords are actually planning. They cannot be sure, but the Turtles appear nervous. Not the kind of nervous energy you might exhibit when preparing for a battle that you did not know the outcome of, but the kind of worry that eats at people who don't know what is happening, coupled with the fear that they might have been forgotten or abandoned. The Illyriwim believe that the Brine Turtles are lost, a frightened lamb that has been separated from their family, their most earnest desire to be rejoined with the flock. The shepherd is nowhere to be seen, so the lamb eyes the wolves nervously, hoping against hope hungry jaws will not close around its throat. The Empire could do nothing here, they judge, and nothing will come of it. The lamb will remain lost and scared, tail tucked firmly between its legs in the hope that the flock can find it before the wolves do. It is a boon that the Illyriwim appear peaceful in dress and demeanour, and the mystagogue and their allies appear deeply unthreatening. That allows them to move cautiously around the Brine Turtles' town of Fioralt. They are even able to use some of the rings they carry to buy essential supplies from the orcs. With Bearade adopting Imperial currency, it seems that some of the brine turtles have discovered a use for the coins and are willing to trade food and clean water, something carefully rationed in Fjoralt even with the presence of the freshwater lake, with the group. Contact remains difficult though. The brine turtles are guarded and defensive and provide as little information as possible. They keep discussions short and businesslike and offer nothing. Those who do show friendship or openness are quickly shut down by the others. Nothing is said within earshot of the Illyriwim, but looks and hushed whispers say what needs to be said. The leadership of the brine turtles have ordered their people to say nothing to the Imperials and offer them nothing. Anyone who looks like they are getting too friendly is quickly reminded where their loyalties lie. They're not being threatened in the opinion of Bonesung Rella, or at least not by their leaders. Rather, they feel threatened, and by the Empire. All it takes is a quiet word to remind them of the threat the Empire represent, and the people remember which side of the river they fish on. Diplomacy is hard, but the Illyriwim are persistent. Their ancestor was the first orc to cross back over the Howling Abyss. They are the sept that builds bridges. A little hostility and icy glares are not enough to dissuade them. Working with painstaking care, they move back and forth across Fjoralt, talking with one brine turtle after another, listening to what is not said, looking for the things that are hidden in plain sight. They notice who looks at who and how. They observe who leaves the room when they enter and who returns. They pay heed to the silent looks and the unspoken gestures, and observe what words and actions cause the turtles' ancestors to reach out to them. It is difficult work, but the Illyriwim are good at this. Even so, they are not ascending a mountainside, they are climbing a cliff face. The turtles remain guarded and wary, frightened and hostile, no matter how deferential and beaten they choose to act. The Illyriwim believe their ancestors are urging them to caution and patience, and believe that the only reason that the turtles engage with them at all is because their ancestors are telling them to learn what they can about the Illyriwim and the Imperial Orcs in the hope that it might be useful. Given the mission Scar-Eyes Gralka has set them, the irony of that is not lost on them. By the time the winter solstice is approaching, the Illyriwim have achieved everything that might be possible here. They have mapped out the currents of the Fjoralt's people, studying the ways of the water's flow, how the eddies form, how the currents pull the turtles down to sea. They know who hears the ancestors strongly and who is dear to their words. They believe they know who listens, and most importantly of all, they have found out who speaks, despite the best efforts of the cautious turtles. The leader of the brine turtles in this area is an orc most people call the Hook, a sailor actually named Opal. He plies his trade fishing with nets from Stormrunner, the largest fishing boat in Fjoralt. Ostensibly, he is nothing more than a sailor and fisherman, but every time people rush to report on the actions of the Illyriwim, it is the Hook they ultimately run to. There is a council of elders that runs the town, stocked with merchants, shaman, sailors, and the like. The Hook isn't on the council, because he doesn't need to be. The council reports to him, not the other way around, and it is him that they take their orders from. If the Empire wants to try and open diplomatic channels, then he is the person they must write to. The Illyriwim have spoken with Opal and say he is a proud, intelligent orc who knows little of life outside the turtles and the currents of the bay, but he understands his people and he leads them because they trust him. Bonesung Rella advises that any approach should be respectful but firm. The turtles respect strength and authority, but it must be realistic. Appeals to join the Empire or convince his warriors to put down their weapons or switch sides will fall on deaf ears and look absurd. The Empire's decision to ban the trade in turtles has opened a window, in part because the gesture is small but limited. More of that kind of thing is needed to build trust, they say. They have let Opal know that someone from the Empire may send a winged messenger to him. Bonesung Rella finishes with these final words of advice to his fellow orcs at Anvil. The longer the journey, the shorter your steps must be. Mercenaries of Scourer. The 12th Scouran Mercenaries Assembly of Jadeful Hold West are willing to garrison any citizen built in Mariv. Accepting the offer would increase the upkeep of the citadel by 10 thrones, but would increase its strength by 1,000. The Scouran Mercenaries offer is available until the start of Summer Solstice 387 YE, after which it will need to be renegotiated. The 12th Mercenaries of Jadefall, or to give them their full name, the 12th Scouran Mercenaries Assembly of Jadefall Hold West, have approached the Imperial Orcs to offer their services in garrisoning a citadel or fortification built in Mariv. The mercenaries are willing to garrison any such structure built in Mariv, including high mountain homes suggested last season by the Tamazi, or the innovation suggested by Federico von Apulian and Hadrian of the Citadel of the Star. Any single citadel or fortification in Mariv could take the 12th Mercenaries of Jadefall up on their offer during the initial planning. It would need to be when the motion was raised, or as part of the announcement, and would increase the strength of the citadel by 1,000 once completed. The terms offered by the 12th Mercenaries of Jadefall are quite reasonable, 10 thrones a season. It is clear they are not expecting employment elsewhere, but they are unlikely to offer this deal for very long. If the Empire plans to make a deal with the Scourans for access to their water, then hiring the garrison could bring even closer ties with the Eastern nation. The Scourans are masters of siegecraft, both the building of deepholds and, as seen in various encounters between Imperial and Scouran mercenaries on foreign battlefields, the breaking of walls. Stories of their pragmatic, single-minded focus on ensuring the death of those who would take their land are spoken of in the most casual way, alongside their careful approach to achieving victory with the fewest casualties among their own number possible. If, instead, the Empire were to plan to dig a tunnel and steal the water from the Scourans, then taking the 12th Mercenaries of Jadefall up on their offer might be the best idea. Granting them intimate access to a citadel or fortification would be risky if the Empire then stole a precious resource from their nation. It is not clear how they would react in those circumstances. The Figurehead. Conjunction. A Grendel Paymaster is meeting with the mercenaries of the Broken Shore to fund attacks on the Imperial Orcs. The skirmish is a highly combat-likely encounter. The Minister of Historical Research is responsible for killing the Grendel. This conjunction is against barbarians. Magistrates advise that lethal force is fully justified. During the autumn equinox, the Imperial Orc Assembly voted to uphold a statement of principle by Skywise Gralka, inviting Urizen to Mariv to discover history that was lost to the nation. An accompanying judgment raised by Veriz Auspire in the Urizen Assembly was also upheld. This combination of the judgments has led to a small number of would-be historians visiting the territory and learning what they can of their nation's past that has not already been uncovered by the historical research. Drusus of the Spire of the Frozen Tear, one of the intrepid historians, has discovered that the general of the army of the Citadels once wielded an artifact rod known as Stormcaller. Drusus's research hasn't revealed many facts on this item beyond its name, and it has properties similar to, but beyond, that of a witch's hammer. Further questioning by Drusus did reveal a rumour that the last sighting of the rod was in the hands of someone referred to as the Kurath of Ikarian. The first few attempts to discuss the matter with the folks of Aerodal were met with one-word answers. Opting instead to speak with the locals of Rathmona gave Drusus slightly more information. The Kurath was apparently similar to the Draculid of Rathmona, a title taken up and used for a time. The Kurath was a leader of the region before the Grendel conquered the territory. That would have been the end of it, something to add to the long history of arguably the Empire's oldest enemy. until a few days before the summit, a representative of Bear Raid visited the Urizen historians and passed on a warning that a Grendel paymaster, accompanied by Assaveans, was expected to arrive in Ikarian shortly to meet with local mercenaries. The exact nature of their meeting is unknown, although the representative of the Bear Raid quickly lets on that the local mercenaries will be paid to attack the holdings of the Imperial Orcs. But the most intriguing point is that the Kurath is the leader of the local mercenaries. The researchers are unable to intervene in the meeting, so they have asked the Minister for Historical Research, Silk Farkas, to take responsibility for killing the Grendel. There is no guarantee that anything relating to Stormcaller will be there, but given the connection to the artifact and the location, it is likely that Urizen and Imperial Orcs will both be interested in the conjunction.